We have some sort of polar vortex spreading across the south of the United States of America. Lots of places opened up their shelters for people who don't have appropriate heating or cooling inside of their homes. And we're getting ready for some stronger things to come. Let's take a look at some of the footage that rolled in last night. This is in Chicago. Streets basically empty, lots of places shut down for this. There was an air traffic issue because of it, and we're starting to see that maybe some people are beginning to suffer because of power outages associated with grid failures. This is a failure at an airport down in Florida. Florida woman decides to go a little bit crazy as she smashes computers, demands that the police are called. Let's watch.
Ooh, that's assault.
Wait, put my money. Two flies.
So she's obviously maybe in some sort of mental health crisis mode at the time. I don't know if there was maybe a barrier to discussion and communication, but I wish I could be that proud putting my belly out as she is. Perfect. In New Zealand, they're reporting that the government is making them destroy healthy hives. This is what some people will say is part of a Project 2025, maybe Project or Agenda 2030 plan to make it so that bees go extinct.
In New Zealand, we've been told to burn a perfectly healthy, strong hive. Look at that. Beautiful hives. They're even starting to create a new queens in these hives. So everything's going well with this beehive. We've been told to burn healthy, strong hives because Marco Gonzalez from MPI is telling us that this site is abandoned. Actually, I think he just wants to be a site for himself. Have no disease. Look at him. Look at how strong.
So these are beekeepers following a very similar mission statement that we saw from farmers across the USA when the government told them to get rid of their milk, dump all the milk on this side of the street. They told them to get rid of and trash all of the crops, the vegetables that they had grown, and they basically wasted it all so that they could control prices, they could control the supply chain, and control some other issues. So we may be seeing part of a larger, broader agenda. This is footage of that devastating typhoon that swept through the Philippines. This is definitely a video of what you should never do. You should never go out into these sort of raging waters. The helmet's not going to protect you. The poncho's not going to protect you. The dogs are even up on the side walls, trying to get up to as high of a landmark as they can. This sent absolute devastation through the area. So you can drown in just 3 inches of water, basically enough to trip, fall down in, and if it just covers part of your face, you can drown in it. So that's why children, the elderly, people in distress or fatigued from a long duration emergency like this, they have so many drowning incidents, and you have to be really careful of your group members. Really watch out for your pets. You can just see that the sheer power of this storm wiped through the area. So many people are going to have to rebuild here, and unfortunately, the infrastructure is just not there for them. These are apparently, this is an anti-ICE, anti-immigration enforcement yoga party that was set up outside of an ICE facility. So if this is the warriors that they're bringing against the National Guard, I'm not too worried about it. If these are the people that are going to be fighting our police officers, I'm not too worried about it. But unfortunately, I think that a lot of these people who you might see in these sort of jazzercise anti-ICE demonstrations are the same people who had the mentality that they could just run somebody over for having a MAGA hat and then drive away. They could just drive through a crowd of people and not think twice about it. So you do have to be careful with all types.
Told you. What if I told you that your electricity bill isn't just paying for the power you use? It might also be paying off Wall Street's debt. As the old meme goes, it's more likely than you think. Here's how private capital works. Firms like asset management giant BlackRock don't usually buy companies with their own money. Instead, they raise giant funds from pension systems, governments, and wealthy investors. When they go shopping, whether it's for a factory, a toll road, even your power company,
or your houses, because remember, BlackRock and associated investment agencies were the largest housing buyers in the USA because they wanted to make it so that you'd be a renter for life. Isn't it funny how they came in and bought up all the houses, right? And then Trump rolls out a 50-year mortgage. So they bought up all the houses, paying way over the asking price, drove the cost of houses up through the roof. No personals could afford it. You couldn't afford it. And then they said, that's okay, we'll rent it to you. But Trump said, don't worry, for the banks, we'll give you a 50-year mortgage. Folks, if you're 40 years old buying into a 50-year mortgage, why? Why are you doing it? And that's what it's about. My oldest son said to me the other day, he said, Dad, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to buy a house. And I said, unfortunately, that's the system that they have set up. They don't want you to do that anymore. They want you to be an indebted servant for the rest of your life.
they use part equity from those investors and part debt borrowed from banks and bond markets. Here's the catch. That debt doesn't sit on BlackRock's books. It sits on the company they just bought. And it's the company, not the asset manager, that has to pay it back. Now, when the company is a utility, like water, gas, or electricity, it's not just any business. Utilities are monopolies. You can't just shop around for a new power company. So where does...
I feel kind of bad for this individual who's giving these truths out because it's absolutely true. But they're going to come after this sort of information. So if you don't already have the cushion of an audience, if you don't already have a lot of people watching and a great library of direction saying this is the character of this person, they'll come after you.
The money to pay back that debt come from? It comes from you, the ratepayers. In leveraged acquisitions of utilities, the bills you pay every month are the revenue stream that services Wall Street's loans.
So the bills you pay every month is the revenue stream that services Wall Street's loans. The taxes you pay every day is the revenue that the government funnels through a laundry program to the retailers and manufacturers because they can raise their prices. You remember when Walmart rose their prices because Biden allowed 41 million people or an extra 20 million people onto SNAP programs. The insurance companies rose their prices because they allowed hundreds of thousands, millions of people onto government-backed health insurance. You were paying that bill. So they were funneling your money into the pockets of the retailers, the manufacturers, the insurance companies, everybody else.
Let's take a real case. Last month, state regulators approved a $6.2 billion buyout of Elite, the parent company of Minnesota Power, the state's main power utility. The buyers? Global Infrastructure Partners, which is owned by BlackRock.
This young man is definitely connecting far too many dots for his own safety.
Together with Canada's pension fund. A public utility that hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans rely on is shifting into the hands of private capital. Critics, like one administrative law judge who advised the acquisition be stopped because it's not in the public interest, warn that buyers are paying a big premium over the utility's actual worth here, potentially hundreds of millions above market value.
All right, let's move on to another video. This is the Treasury Secretary.
The revenues come in at the beginning, then as we rebalance, which is the goal of this, bring back high-paid manufacturing jobs to the U.S., then it will then morph into domestic tax revenues. You know, President Trump has consistently fought for the American worker, and we are seeing trillions of investments in the U.S. that would not have occurred without the tariffs. The other thing, too, is, you know, the authority that he uses is called IEPA. It is an emergency authority, and he used that emergency authority. He got the Chinese to the table to negotiate on stopping the precursors for fentanyl drugs. If fentanyl, hundreds of thousands of Americans dying every year is not an emergency, what is?
It's almost like anytime they get backed into a corner and they feel like the fight isn't good enough, They can't lie to you enough to tell you that your prices are actually low. They're gaslighting the American people every single day, telling you that your prices are lower when they're not, telling you that you're making more money than ever when you're not, telling you that you're owning more assets than ever when you are not. And when they can't fight this fight anymore, they throw a little fentanyl fight into it. And they're like, hey, we're stopping the Chinese from bringing fentanyl in. I know at least 5, 6 people through people who have succumb to fentanyl poisoning. So it's real. But I know hundreds of people who their quality of life right now is completely in shambles. And I think that's the direction that we're going into, folks. You're watching Full Spectrum Survival on YouTube. Please make sure that you check back at 2 p.m. this afternoon for more breaking news and headlines from America and around the world. Until then, please stay safe.